Hello, this is Mr. Collier, and today we're doing some parallel perpendicular lines and the midpoint and distance formula. Okay, so first let's look at parallel lines. Of course they have the same gradient or the same slope because they're both going in the same direction like that. So given these two lines, find the slope of the line that is parallel to A. Well, a line like that would have a slope of half because A has a slope of half. And for B, the slope would be -3. Okay, but when we look at perpendicular lines must be easier if you had graph paper, but if the slope of this one is like half, then you go up 1, right 2 to get back to the line. For the perpendicular lines, you go up to left 1, up to left 1, so that's like a slope of -2/1. Okay, and this is like flipped over and negative, so we call it the negative reciprocal. Okay, so same thing here. The slope of this perpendicular line to B would be +1/3. Okay, the slopes are always negative reciprocals. Another way to say that is the slope of a line and the perpendicular line, they multiply to give you -1. Okay, so that might help in some algebraic situations. Okay, and notice these numbers multiply to give you -1 every time. Okay, which of these lines is perpendicular to this line? So we need to figure out the slope. So let's write this in slope-intercept form. I'm going to divide by 4. Y equals -1/4. X minus half. So the slope is -1/4 for this one. Slope for this one is 1. Slope for this one is 3. And the slope for this one is 4. So this is the one that is perpendicular. Okay. So find the equation of a line that passes through this point. That means the x value is 2, the y value is 4, and it's perpendicular to this one. So if it's perpendicular, it has a slope of -1/3, and we can actually just use point slope form and do y minus 4 equals 1/3 times x minus 2. And we can leave it like that unless the question asks you for slope-intercept form. We can actually just leave your equation in that form. Okay, next we'll look at midpoint and distance formula. So the midpoint between two points, you just do this. You find the average of the x-coordinates and the average of the y-coordinates, which makes sense because halfway in between is going to be the average. And for the distance formula, we have this, which comes from Pythagorean theorem. Right? If this point is x2, y2, this one's x1, y1, then this distance is going to be y2 minus y1. This distance is going to be x2 minus x1. And then this follows from just Pythagorean theorem. Okay, d squared equals that, and then you square root both sides. Anyway, let's use it. Okay, let's find the midpoint between these two. So the midpoint is, well, we find the average of the x values and the average of the y values. So the midpoint is going to be, in this case, half, 5/2. Okay, and the distance is going to be root x1 minus x2, or the other way around, doesn't really matter, plus 0 minus 5 squared, so that equals 3 squared plus -5 squared. That is 9 plus 25. That equals root 34, which we can't simplify, so you can just leave your answer as a surd, or get a decimal on your calculator if necessary.